So did you find as you had more experience as a rider that the way you managed the risk or the more margin you gave yourself or didn't give yourself changed on all those, calculating all those risks that you had to factor in as you were riding?
I would have to say probably so, but it's not something that was conscious of me. I learned more strategy. I learned what my skills and what my weaknesses were and what my riders were. So I was able to be a better rider, not just fitness wise, but with all those other factors involved, taking in all the other risks and all the other strategies and putting them together to be a better rider.
We all know that cycling is an immensely taxing sport. I mean, it's like rowing, except 20 times longer. And you mentioned training earlier. How did you manage your training for these races? I can imagine, as you mentioned earlier, you can either overtrain or you can undertrain, and you're looking for that sweet spot. And as you were talking, something that came to mind was something the Olympics folks are using these days, and that is sort of live high, train low. Train low so you can get the most out of your training regimen, but live high so your lungs sort of on a everyday basis get increased capacity. How do you approach that whole problem? Because there's as many tactics as there are involved in this thing. You got to be able to ride in the worst conditions.
That's right. Right. That's the most important thing. When I first started riding, training for me was just going out and riding my bike. I just go really hard, and I went up hills a lot, and I just go really hard, and I just go really hard. And then I learned about training from Andy, and I learned every ride has to mean something, whether it's speed, intervals, hills. Every time you're on your bike, it's got to be a specific reason. You don't just go out and ride your bike. That's for, tourists. So I learned to make every ride count and to make rest count. I would take my pulse differential every morning. And if my pulse was high, and it's not just your wake up pulse, because that's deceiving. You take your pulse when you're laying down and then when you stand up, and it's the differential that makes the difference. If my pulse was high, I wouldn't do anything. And I think the hardest thing about training is not training. When I quit riding and I was coaching, nobody would listen to me on that. So I just stopped. But that was a game changer for me. So to answer your question, I never trained specifically for the Tour de France because I didn't know I was going to get on the team until right before I left. But I was just training very smart and really listening to my body and giving it as much recovery and effort as I could.
I know what you're talking about because the second time I ran a marathon, I didn't train as hard in terms of, every single day, got to do 15 miles. I did kind of what you're talking about. Well, it was luck rather than skill. I would tell you that because it was mostly a scheduling problem, but I felt so much better after that marathon than I did after my first one. But I'm sorry, Sarah, you were going to ask?
No, I was just curious. You comment the importance of rest, but I would argue nutrition's probably equally as important. I mean, you're using huge amounts of energy, and there's, good food and bad food, and you have to kind of get your body used to that, especially the amount of energy you're using during a race. I mean, you have to kind of plan the nutrients you're taking in during one of those long races, or how does all that work?
Well, I'm probably not the best person to ask for that.
Hot dogs, hamburgers,
okay, never mind.
French fries. Okay, I love it.
Never mind. Yeah, that wasn't really much of a factor for you, huh? The nutrition?
Well, I don't cook. I grew up cooking, but I don't cook now. And so I eat pretty simply, but I don't eat a lot of junk food, but I don't also, I'll
obsess over it. Yeah.
I don't eat a lot of sweets, but I don't pay attention to how I eat then or now.
When you guys are doing the Tour de France, did you have a nutrition component to that or an energy ingest piece of that? Or did you just kind of eat?
No, but they fed us every night and we were allowed to have some wine.
Oh, very nice. French. Yeah.
Yeah.
Très bien.
And the food wasn't great, but you know what? I didn't have to cook or clean up. So I was thrilled. We got food every night. And again, that's where I was just so excited to be there I didn't need, sure, the men, when the couple times we got to go see where the men were staying, oh my gosh, they were like in posh with great dinners and everything. But we were there. We were in France. We were racing every day. They were feeding us every day. We got massages every day. We got to race our bikes every day. What could be better?
You're living the dream.
That sounds nice.
Living the dream.